keep allowing people to join in. So welcome. It is August 5th, Monday. Welcome to the Power Up and the Market Update. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today. And we have a very, very special guest that I've been trying to get on our Monday calls here for some time. So I'm so excited that she is here. So I'm going to go into a couple of exercises here in the first couple of minutes, and then we'll go into the topic that I know everyone wants to hear, all of the changes that are happening August 17th. If you guys can just interact with me, put it in the chat. If you guys can see my screen, I just want to get some feedback, make sure that everything is working on my end. Let's also, I encourage everybody to fully participate in this training. The more you participate, the more you plug in. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me that feedback. Awesome. So can see the camera and the screen. Excellent. So before we begin, just a couple of reminders. Remember to be present, bring your full attention, eliminate distractions, focus and stay with this conversation, and engage and drop insights on the chat, just like you guys are doing now. And understand that how you do anything is how you do everything. So I know you guys are ready because a lot of you were already here even before we got started up today. So the topic of today's conversation is Master the Market Changes. Master the Market Changes. Before we get started up in the other things, we're going to start off with some affirmations. We like to get the energy right in this Power Up and Market Update. So this is an opportunity for you to be, go out loud. So yes, you can unmute yourself in this moment. I encourage every single one of you, if you have the opportunity to do so, follow along with these affirmations. This is something I've been doing for over a decade. So I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3, power up. We're going to do that twice. And then I'm going to say the phrase and repeat after me. So are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So 1, 2, 3, power up.
Power up.
Power up.
Power up.
1, 2, 3, power up.
1, 2, 3, power up.
High energy equals high income.
High energy, high income.
Every day and every way, I'm getting better and better.
Every day and every way, I'm getting better and better.
Every day and every way, I'm getting stronger and stronger.
Every day and every way, I'm getting stronger and stronger.
Every day and every way, I'm getting smarter and smarter.
Every day and every way, I'm getting smarter.
My need is within me now.
All I need is now.
I have perfect health.
I have perfect health.
I sign a new listing today.
Sign a new listing today.
Open a new escrow today.
Open a new escrow today.
I was born to win.
I was born to win.
I'll never surrender.
I'll never surrender.
Growing.
I'll always keep growing.
I'm going to be great.
Born to be great.
Today will be the best day of my life no matter what.
Today is the best day of my life no matter what.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. A great big round of applause for you guys for bringing up the energy on today's training. And I also want to have an opportunity now to drop in the chat. What are you grateful for today? Gratitude, as you guys already know, I always say this. Gratitude is an abundance multiplier. So I am so grateful that Holly is with us today as a guest speaker. I'm so grateful that each and every single one of you are here today. I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm so grateful for the ability to see. I'm so grateful for the ability to hear, speak. I'm so grateful for my warm cup of coffee. I'm so grateful for my amazing workout this morning. What are you grateful for? Drop it into the chat. Let's flood the chat with gratitude. What are you grateful for today? I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends, for the organization. I'm grateful for EXP. I'm grateful for this amazing industry. What are you grateful for? Drop it into the chat. Flood the chat with gratitude. Gratitude is an abundance multiplier. The more you're grateful for what you already have, the more things you're going to have in your life that you can be grateful for. So thank you guys so much for flooding the chat with gratitude and starting the day right. Also, want to encourage you with this gratitude in your heart and in your mind. I want you to now visualize, and if you have the opportunity to do so, close your eyes. If you're driving, don't close your eyes, but visualize, 12 months from now, you've accomplished everything you desire. You got all the transactions. You helped as many families as you wanted to. What does your bank account look like? I want you to really visualize that. Bring it to your present moment. And also visualize, what kind of car are you driving? Where are you at around the world, right? How many people are you impacting? How many lives are you serving? How many buyers and sellers have you served, right? Get very clear and bring that vivid imagination to life and visualize the greatest outcome. And I want you guys to practice this, obviously not just on this call, but practice this every day and even before you go to bed, because typically what does happen is that we start to think about all the things that we didn't accomplish and all the things that we didn't get to. But I want you guys to pivot and visualize and take a moment to actually energize yourself and focus on what you are creating, because if you want to predict the future, you got to create it, guys. So that's a visualization exercise. Thank you so much for playing full out. And our goal as a community is to serve 21,000 families, $10 billion in volume, and to attract 10,000 agents to our community. I'm going to go into our vision at Let's Grow Movement is to be a leading catalyst for transformation in the real estate industry. We aim to cultivate a global community of highly skilled, innovative, and successful real estate professionals who will not only achieve their own ambitions, but also contribute to raising industry standards. By harnessing the power of advanced technology, continuous learning, and network of motivated agents, we strive to create a legacy of empowerment, abundance, and collective success. Through our efforts, we envision shaping the future where real estate professionals have the tools, knowledge, and support needed to thrive in an ever-evolving market and make a positive impact on the world around us. So thank you so much for, again, listening. And we're going to go into a local market update, okay? I know there's many of you here from all over the nation, so I'm not covering every single market, but you guys should be doing this every single week, because I think that he or she who knows their numbers wins. So you got to know your numbers. I want you to know how many actives, pendings, closed, average days in the market, and also the sum total of what has actually happened in either your city or your state. You got to know these numbers. So look at I just took 5 counties, and I want you guys to understand this is only 7 days of production. Okay, no matter how much noise is out there, look at last 7 days of production. LA, we had a 1.4 billion in production in the last 7 days closed. 800 million in Orange County, 260 million in San Bernardino, 428 million in Riverside, and 688 million in San Diego. And listings. Look at the listings though. This means that an agent sat down with the customer, signed listings 1,300 times in LA in the last 7 days, 449 times in Orange County, 476 in San Bernardino, 629 in Riverside, and 626 in San Diego. So if we total out just 5 counties in the last 7 days, that's $3.7 billion in closings, 3,300 properties, $91 million in commissions paid. So the question you should ask yourself is, how much of this market do I want to participate in? There's no right or wrong answer. Answer it for yourself. But there is plenty of business if you focus on the possibility. And like Mr. Bill Pipe said last week, you control the narrative. So the next slide that I have here for you guys, let me see what I got here. Changing gears, just want to go over, we got some powerful trainings this week, and here, let me go this next one. We have the Monday Mastermind. Actually, this was last week's image, so sorry about that. We actually had Miss Christina coming to style present this morning. We also have Winner Circle Wednesday at 10 a.m. and Mr. Mo is doing Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 9:15 skills mastery. So if you want to practice your skills, dialogues, you guys want to capture more listings, please don't miss this training. It's super powerful. I've been getting so much positive feedback, so please don't miss those trainings. So we also have some live events. Redlands, we're also doing August 6th. We're doing an event out there, so make sure that you tune into that. You will get an invite in your emails. Close the escrow like a pro. We have our very own Mr. George Salazar, luxury agent out in LA. That's going to be doing a powerful class on the 13th. And we also have a live event out in the Antelope Valley, Palmdale area. We're doing August 15th, the Winner Circle live event. So all of these events will be emailed over to you guys. So just in case you guys are like, hey, how do I register? You guys will get an email with the link and all that good stuff as well. Also, in November, we're going to go ahead and build homes for families. So if you guys want to participate in this movement, it's called Collaboration for Impact. If you feel called to contribute and feel called to be part of it, make sure you reach out and we'll show you guys how to get involved in that. So the next thing, actually, now we're going to go ahead and welcome our guest speaker. So before she comes up, and I know you guys want to hear from Ms. Holly, I want to give you guys a little bit of context of who she is, because she's made a tremendous impact in our company, and I'm so grateful that she's here. Holly Mabery is a Senior Vice President for Brokerage Operations at eXp Realty. She joined eXp in the summer of 2018 as the Arizona designated broker. She has a 26 real estate year veteran, having worked as an individual agent, co-team leader, and actively working with buyers and sellers at every level. She is a national real estate instructor, real estate school owner, and has served in various levels of the real estate organization, including the 2012 president of Arizona Realtors. She is currently the vice president of Real Estate Business Institute. Holly brings a contagious enthusiasm for all things real estate and continues to focus energies helping agents grow their business at eXp Realty. Without further ado, guys, I want you guys to give Holly Mabery a huge, huge welcome. Blow up the chat. Welcome her to the call. Thank you so much, Holly. Welcome. And the floor is yours, my friend.
What's up, everybody? Good morning. I am so pumped, and I'm not even drinking coffee right now. So thank you guys. Thank you for your passion to show up on a Monday morning and get better. I know that a lot of angst is in the air. Is that fair? Like anybody feeling a little bit of stress? For sure. And this is what I will say, y'all. This is such a professionals market. Leo said it earlier. It is such a professionals market. And what I found in real estate is when you lean into when it gets scary, when you lean in and you learn just a little bit more, it's amazing. It's like it puts you on the fast track to next. Any time in my career over the past long time, let's just put it that way. Anytime I've gotten nervous, when I set out and I learned to master something, a script, a form, a way of doing business, and I really put my focus and intention on it, my life changed, my business changed. And that's what I would invite you to consider right now is there's a lot of new stuff, right? A lot of new forms to learn, a lot of talking heads on social media. The best advice I can give you is pick a form, learn it, own it. And probably the two forms I would say right out of the gate for you to learn are definitely going to be your buyer broker agreement, right? How you're going to communicate with the buyer. And then the second is going to be probably your listing agreement. And I know some of you are like, well, Holly, the listing agreement is what it is. It's changed. And I think that for those of you who are in Southern California, California proper, that listing agreement coming from California Realtors, y'all, that was the whole reason that eXp chose to write our own. We looked at copies that were being sent around the loop, so to speak, back in early May, and we went, our team went, we don't want our agents to have to try and explain it. It's terrible. So I just want to jump right in. I'm going to share my screen, and I do love interactivity. So I'm going to be watching chat as we go. Definitely very much want to take care of you and answer questions as we go. Is that all right? Cool, man. Cool. Let's do it and be awesome together. And I got the chat pulled up because I got multiple screens and I can do all the things. All right. So NAR update. This was as we knew things on August 1st. We know that it's changing all the time. So just to kind of get you guys started, Leo Pareja and I want you to know this. We didn't create this. We didn't create the rules, but we are going to be creating the path forward. And we are passionate about how we go forward together and we actually lift our industry, because we do believe that a rising tide raises all boats, and that's what we're focused on. So as we go forward on that, the listing compensation versus buyer compensation. There's been a lot in the media right now and Facebook and whatnot around what was and what is. So let's break it down. What was, listing agent went out and maybe they negotiated the full amount, right? They went out and maybe they took a full percentage, their percentage, and then whatever was going to be offered to a buyer broker. That has now become extinct as of August 15th. We really want you to focus on the next being, okay, I'm going to go out as a listing agent this afternoon, right? Like one of your affirmations, I'm going to take a listing today. I love that. When you go out, I want you to focus solely on your fee, on your cost. What does it take you to do a business for that seller? The everything from photos and signs and staging and whatever that looks like, and then all of your work from contract to close. What does that cost? And what is that going to cost the seller? And then you sit back after you've sorted that out and you start to have a conversation about the market. What can the seller see? What could be coming? And so that makes a huge, huge difference. So I want you to negotiate very smartly. And when you look at the eXp agreement, your first strategy is all about you and what your cost is. And this is a screenshot from our EXP agreement. It is in SkySlope, available for you, and you can log in, download it, use it with any seller. It does work in California. We've got all the proper language in there for you to use it there. So you can do exactly like a flat fee, or you can do the percentage. Some folks I know have maybe additional fees, and that's why other is available. So if somebody wants you to advertise in the Wall Street Journal, if you have it a special administrative fee that you charge, okay, great, that would go in there. We also wanted to prepare because we recognize in the market, some buyers are not going to want to work directly with an agent. We recognize some buyers will try and go directly to the listing agent. And we also recognize that you as the listing agent may not want to take them on as a client. You would want to treat them as a customer, which still means you're treating them honestly. You're still doing disclosure. You're still doing accounting, and you have a modicum of care that you have to provide. But in that instance, you're solely taking care of the seller. We wanted to give you that ability to charge extra in those situations that would come from the seller. So you're not representing the buyer. You don't have to get a buyer broker. You're solely in the seller's house. So this blank space down here on the unrepresented buyer, that's where you would put the total, both what you would have above to be just the listing agent, and what would you have to do to be the listing agent and the direct communicator with that unrepresented buyer. We wanted to give you flexibility in this listing agreement because we know some people are going to come at you. Some people are going to walk through the open house, say, I was a real estate agent up until 2012. I got out of the business and I know what I'm doing. Okay, cool. You may not want to represent them. We wanted to give you this flexibility. Does that make sense? Any questions on that so far? It's kind of straightforward, sweet. So this total is the last line, is the listing broker compensation shall be everything in that situation if you represent a buyer. Now, what's cool about this is strategy 2 is you're going to have the full conversation around, hey, seller, you might see a buyer come in right now because interest rates have been a little high, although they came down this week. We may see a buyer ask for a buy down of interest rates. We may see a buyer ask for closing costs, a home warranty, the washer dryer. We may see a buyer ask to contribute to their closing costs, which could be their agent. Would you like to do that? And we can negotiate that at time of contract, make the buyer ask. But if you've got a situation, say you're taking a listing on a condo and it's FHA approved in the building, and that seller's got to get gone. Man, they've got to move so fast because of a job transfer. And they're like, let everybody know I'm super happy. I'm FHA, super happy to pay a commission. Okay, great. On section 21 of our listing agreement, you can write in additional terms exactly what you mean here. You can say seller authorizes listing agent to say X, whatever the seller wants. But we know a couple of things coming out of the NAR lawsuit. Pre-printed language around offer of compensation is a problem. So we want to be mindful and thoughtful there. 2, we don't want to assume what our seller's going to tell us we can and can't do. We want to have a conversation. This is an open discussion between the two of us. Maybe we're having it at time of listing and we handwrite it in. Cool. Maybe we have the conversation at time of listing and I'm sending them through DocuSign or SkySlope DigiSign. I'm sending this listing. Okay. And I type it in, but I've got an email before I send it that says, as per our conversation, you've authorized me to do A, B, and C. See, I really like risk management at a high level. I like inspecting what we expect and over communicating. Seller, as per our conversation on the phone just now, you said this, this, and this, and we have agreement. And I'm following up. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's one of those, like, I want them to direct me, and if it's by phone, cool. I'm going to follow it up with an email so there's all clarity. It makes all the difference in the world. See, anytime we're working with sellers, we want to have these strategies where we kind of layer, because this strategy becomes so important. And this is a script that an amazing real estate instructor on the East Coast shared earlier this summer. And sometimes buyers will need assistance financing their costs. Okay, cool. So we may see a seller need help with, oh gosh, or a buyer need help with their closing costs, paying their agent, whatever. Great, let's wrap it into the loan. We're going to credit them, but maybe we up our price, right? All of those types of things I want you to strategically think about, because at the end of the day, it's really, really important that we communicate to the seller what their net is. Now, just by quick show of hands or emojis on your screen, how many of you have done a seller net sheet before? Yeah, all right, sweet. I like those hands going up. Thank you for that. If you have never done a seller net sheet before, don't worry, we've got your back. We've created a very easy tool to use as part of our seller toolkit. It is actually a seller net sheet. And so you can go in, you can plug things in advance. Like when you go to take the listing, it would be my best practice. You do it at the first time, like, hey, this is what you can expect. My fee, if you decide to offer closing costs, okay, great. And then they can play with the numbers. So many times, folks, especially if they've only sold one house or only bought one house, they don't know what it costs. It's kind of ambiguous. It's like going to buy a car. You don't know what all the costs are. And even when you read your contract, you're like, I don't understand. This doesn't make sense. We don't want that. We want to be so transparent that the client goes, oh my gosh, I would only go to Leo because he's the guy who explained everything to me and it was in writing, right? Like that's a boss move. Why wouldn't we do that up front and own it? So it becomes really important as we go forward and using that script. That net, we've got the net sheet. I actually, at time of listing, I will have a couple of different net sheets. Maybe if I'm doing a price range or whatever, like, hey, seller, if we list here, this is what you can expect. If we list here, but you need to do these things, this is what you can expect. If you've got repairs that we need to consider, all of that, start to use those net sheets and lean into them. I found it makes a huge difference to really frame people selling and having a better understanding of what that process is. Now, we know that in some markets and some price ranges, we're still seeing a lot of multiple offer situations. We've created a multiple offer form for you. Have you guys ever done a multiple offer form? Yeah, it's super sweet. So basically, you've got the offers A, B, C, D across the top, maybe their price, down payment, loan type, earnest money, contingencies, all of that, and then net at the bottom of it. So the seller sees kind of this spreadsheet that it basically has all these offers on it, and then they see the net of each of them, and then positives and negatives, whether it's got a contingency, got to sell their house, loan type, all of that. Huge, huge difference. So the seller can make really thoughtful decisions for their family, looking at their bottom line. When you look to sell, it's really about a business transaction and their net. And when you really lean into it, it makes a difference. So it's just some things to think about as you go forward. Now, one of the questions I got hit with probably the most this weekend was advertising. Where can I offer that my seller is willing to pay compensation to a buyer broker? This is what we're seeing out of the MLSs right now. 2 clicks. And what I mean by that is if you have something in the MLS, you cannot allude to offer of compensation and in some instances, even concessions. You just need to say, seller is willing to entertain offers from buyer broker. And let's be clear, some of you are like, well, if they've got a sign in the yard, isn't that a given? Yes, it is. I also want you to be super clear, especially in your showing, automatic showing services. Like in Arizona, we use Showing Time quite a bit. If you communicate offer of compensation through that portal, you are in violation of MLS rules. So don't say in the as somebody reaches out and says, hey Leo, I'd like to show your house at 789 Main Street. What's the compensation? And if Leo were to say, seller's super happy to offer compensation and this is the amount, he's now in violation and could be subject to fine. So please don't do that. I don't want you fined. You work too hard for your money. Best practice would be text the agent. Text the agent on your phone, like this antique device. Go ahead and text them. Yep. Thanks for showing. The seller has authorized me to offer compensation. Or the seller says, please put any of your need in the offer. All of those types of things. Now, we are seeing this rise of a lot of independent websites that are third party offering compensation and stuff like that. I'll say this, y'all, be careful. Some of those are direct feeds from MLS. If they are, you could be in violation. Also, we're already seeing cease and desist orders from the Department of Justice out to owners of those websites. So there's some problems there. I just want to protect you. I'm not telling you don't do it. I want you to be aware of the downside, that it could potentially be in violation of this settlement agreement that you guys are all covered under. And I don't want bad things to happen. So best practice, I'd probably stay away from the third party websites. If your seller wants you to put it on a sign writer, okay. If your seller wants you to put it, if you've got a subdivision and you're handing out flyers so everybody walks in, okay. If you need it on a billboard, okay. Just be cautious and have in writing direction from your seller. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Anytime you get into standardization, and that's where the lawsuit really came down to, they felt we were standardized, thus creating an antitrust kind of environment. So let's stay away from that. Always in writing, always those things. So things to think about. All right. So what's next? Yeah, go ahead, man.
Should we take questions now, or do you want to hold it on? Because there's a couple of questions that were posed.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah. So if you want to, before we continue, I think if you want to address them now, or we could, however you like to do it.
No, let's go ahead and address it now. So Lydia, you were saying we'll be representing the seller only, but paid to compete the buyer side without representation. And this is going back. And so I'm just going to go back a couple clicks. I apologize. So this is if we have an unrepresented buyer, and the short answer is yes, you're treating them as a customer. There's one more form I want you to use, and it's the disclosure and acknowledgement of unrepresented customer. And so you'd have the buyer sign that basically says, yo, you're not being represented by me. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And you should get an attorney, and I really don't represent you. Sign here. Right? So it really is kind of that, hey, look over here. This is a big deal that you're about to do. And so this is really kind of, you're taking on more. So what I might fill in these boxes, let's say my listing fee is I charge 2.75%. That's for me. It's past client. I'm going down that road. Cool. If an unrepresented buyer comes, I may counsel with the seller and say, okay, that I'm taking on extra everything to make sure this deal goes smoothly for you. And so to be able to do that in my time, I want to make sure that I'm taking care of you at the highest level, but it also means all of these extra things. And so for that, I'm going to charge an extra 1.5% or an extra $5,000. So my total down here would be, instead of the 2.75 up here, I might have 1 and 3 or 3 3/4 down here, or 4%, whatever. So play with that, see what makes sense. What is it? How much time does it take you to close a deal? What are the requirements that are going to have to be? I mean, are you meeting the septic inspector out there? Are you having to be there for the home inspection? All of those things that maybe a buyer's agent would do, but now you have to be there for your seller to protect the plate. Your time is worth a lot. I would suggest minimum $250 an hour is what you're worth. What's going on and how do you handle it? Great question. I'm scrolling down here to get some more. So Crystal, you absolutely, on the compensation to a buyer broker, you can text, you can say it over the phone, but my goodness, do not use those MLS portal showing services, because that's only one step removed from the MLS. Does that make sense? And sadly, I've already seen some agents start to bait, buyer's agents starting to bait listing agents into disclosing compensation that way to get them fined, which is just, come on, guys, we got better things to do. So keep
Hi,
going.
Holly. It's
Yeah.
Crystal.
Hey,
Sorry, just real
Crystal.
quick. The only reason why that caught my attention is because, and I don't know if I'm kind of scared now, but I had an agent text me this morning about a listing we have on, and she asked how much is the commission, and I put what the commission was. So I'm like, am I doing something wrong?
No, you're not doing anything wrong because you did it in a text message. Well
Okay.
done.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well done. So no, you're good. You're good. Yeah. And it's always one of those, just be smart, be thoughtful, and do what your seller directs. Does that make sense? So the multiple offers sheet, Cheryl, is going to be on the listing toolkit that I know Leo's going to drop here shortly. So that's all good. So fee schedules. Claudia, I want you to charge what keeps you in business. I don't want to approve your fee schedule. Like, I want you to make really good choices as you go forward. Amanda, where are you asking? Total listing comp and unrepresented? Yeah, unrepresented, this is the total of everything. Does that make sense?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the seller is doing a credit, I think the wording, if they do a credit for buyer's agent, especially in certain loans where there's a max credit limit, let's say on a conventional 3% is the max credit, seller credit. So the wording would be, because before compensation wasn't part of, closing cost.
Right.
So how does that work? If
I've
you're
got
maxed
you.
at 3%?
Yeah, check this out. I've got a direct compensation from seller form. We've just launched this. I actually updated it this morning because there was some verbiage I wanted to make sure was super clear. Now, a couple of different ways you can use this. As a buyer's agent, I may have a buyer in your scenario. So I contact the listing agent and they say, yep, by phone, the seller's authorized me to give, let everybody know we're offering compensation, and I can send this over to them. The seller can fill it out, tell me what they're gonna pay, and we'll have, length of agreement, I might say 2 weeks, right? Maybe 30 days at max, but I'm gonna say 2 weeks. And the seller signs it, and you would sign it, and maybe the broker, depending on the state you're in, because sometimes we have to have the broker sign it. And then you go show. And what this does is the seller pays us directly at close of escrow through the title company, and then your buyer can negotiate for the closing costs. So it takes it outside of that cap. We actually drafted this form and put it out in circulation back in May with the buyer broker agreements, because we knew VA had not done something to kind of move us forward. So we've already got that in play. Now, on the listing side, you go take a listing this afternoon and somebody's like, oh my gosh, totally need to let people know I'm willing to offer compensation. And especially the first 2 weeks while we're on the market, let's go. So you can have your seller complete this, and any buyer that calls, you send this to them, any buyer's agent. So you can absolutely do it in the reverse. This is a form that gives you flexibility and communication with your seller. Now, what I would say is, what does your seller want? Do they want to broadcast it to the world and hand out, hey, I'm willing to offer compensation like Halloween candy? Or do they want to strategically negotiate in each contract as it comes forward? It's a mindset difference. And this is where I would say, know your seller, know your market, know the price range. What makes the most sense? Does that help a little bit? And I'm gonna scroll down. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I just wanted to my question. I apologize. So for the unrep buyer and then the listing compensation. So my broker, I asked him the other day about that, and he said it was just, okay, let's say my fee is 2.5 for the listing, and then my unrepresented buyer was 1%. I put 2.5% at the top where it says listing comp, and then 1% where it says unrepresented buyer.
It's total on the bottom.
It's
The
total on the bottom.
fee. The total.
Okay. I'm gonna have to let him know that because he's telling
Yeah.
everybody not.
Yeah.
Okay.
What state are you in?
Iowa.
Okay, I got you. I'll do
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah, no problem. I love these questions. Thank you. Yeah, and so George, such a great question. In theory, it would be for all agents in that brokerage, but let's talk about California. I got 12,000 agents in EXP California. Not everybody's going to know that 789 Peachtree is totally willing to offer 4% commission. So best practice is to get it signed for you as the agent, and if you're on a team, it could work, but is your team leader on it, right? Like, I just want to be really, really smart about this because we want to know as this goes.
Holly, where do we find this form again?
It's in our listing kit, in the FAQs, but it's also going to be in SkySlope for you.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, great questions.
Holly, I have another question. So Zayda Palmdale, just really quick. So what I'm getting is essentially we can't promote it on the listing, but we can tell them, text them, right? Or show them this form, and that kind of takes us out of any liability.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
then that's easy. Thank you.
It is easy. I think the thing is right now, like, we know how people deal with change. It's scary at first, and then you kind of get into a rhythm and flow. And you're like, oh, this isn't as hard. We're breaking eggs right now. And so people feel gooey and sticky. Okay, keep going. Break the eggs, make the cake, life is going to be okay on the other side. All right, just a couple more things. We talked about advertising. We talked about the direct pay. Representing a buyer on my listing, I want to challenge you. If you go out and take a listing and you're doing an open house, do you want to represent that buyer? Did the seller give you permission to represent that buyer? You're not required to have a buyer broker when somebody comes through an open house, or if you go to open the door for a buyer that calls on your sign. But the minute you cross that threshold of giving advice, pulling comps, talking about what is in the neighborhood that maybe they couldn't Google themselves, it's going to be required. So when you start to hit that threshold of like, whoop, said too much, now you need to start talking about what a buyer's agent does and what they get paid and how you work and what people can expect. Does that make sense? But until that time, if it's your listing, good, just don't go past the red line. All right, cool. Now, buyer services, this is where I really would invite you to start to tune in and lean into your best scripts. Remember, I said the two forms I really want you to really master here in the next 30 days are going to be your buyer broker agreement and your listing agreement, because people are going to be asking with all the stuff in the media. Like Leo Pareja was just interviewed by Time Magazine, and that article just came out. He's about to be interviewed by CNN. So there's a lot of really intensive pressure and focus as you and I go out into the marketplace right now. The best thing we can do is talk to people about what they can expect and how you show up for them. And if you've got that dialed in, if you're super comfortable about, hey, this is what I do for you. This is what you can expect. This is what is required by law. This is what you would sign. This is why you would sign it, all of that kind of stuff. So internet search, if you're just putting somebody on your MLS drip campaign, no buyer broker needed. For showing, maybe you use the single property buyer broker that we released earlier this summer, and that allows you to get to know them to get to know you. There's no really any commitment beyond that house. But then you start to get into kind of our non-exclusive agreement. And so EXP's buyer broker is a non-exclusive. Like, we have to show the house they end up writing on, and we have to do those services in order to get paid. The Association of Realtors has produced an exclusive agreement that locks people in for a time frame or a zip code or whatever. And we may get to that, but what we felt is there was so much not listening to the client by the associations that we wanted to make sure that you all were in a position to have those conversations. And it makes a really big difference. So just something to think about in that respect. And so speaking on agency, this is a script that's worked for me for a long, long time. And I would always tell buyers when I'd meet them the first time or I was talking to them on the phone, open houses, this worked great. Hey, in our state, you get to choose your agent and you're going to sign some paperwork. And this would be our agency disclosure. And it's got to outline how we would work together and what my fee is. But until you do, please know anything you share may be used against you in a negotiation, right? So if you don't choose your agent out of the gate, that's cool. But if you tell people why you are moving, when you need to be in a certain place, how you're going to be paying for something, that speaks to your motivation and negotiating strategy. And that could be a detriment to you. Does that make sense? Is this helpful? I hope. Yeah, I know you've got a master of scripts later this month or this week, but just something to think about. Cool. Go ahead. Okay, so I see a question, Karen. I love this question. No, you can do a non-exclusive, you can do exclusive. I want you to do what's best given the client that's in front of you. It is not for me to determine what's best for your business because I'm not walking in your shoes. We recognized there was a gap. It was either all or nothing, and that didn't feel very good. It felt like it left a lot of people on the sidelines. So we really wanted to make smart decisions and try and give you more tools in your toolbox. Chris, I love this question. Can we use one BBA per client? The answer is no, you can actually use multiple. Let's take this scenario out. You've got a client who is looking at to buy a new home. They're not sure if they're going to buy residential resale or if they're going to buy new construction. And we know in some areas, new construction is paying like a 5% co-broke. New or resale may be somewhere between 2 to 3%. So what I might say in those two instances on my buyer broker, I might say, okay, if you buy new construction, it'll be 5%. If you buy residential resale, it'll be 3%. And they'll say, okay, well, why more for new construction? And I'm not going to say, well, they're offering it. No, that's not a good idea. What I would say is, hey, I will come out and part of my services in your new construction is this takes 9 months, 12 months to get done. So I come out and I try to take pictures to memorialize each step of the process for you so you can see when it goes up, slab pour, the electrical is run, all of those things. Also, if you have questions around what's going on in the neighborhood, what other homes are selling for, what upgrades people are doing, especially as we get close to that time point, I'll be your Huckleberry. Like I'll be there for all of that. And so as a result, the investment of my time goes from a 30-day investment to a 9-month investment. And so why wouldn't you pay more for these extra services? Does that make sense? Yeah, so just something to think about there. So could you use it more than one? Absolutely. Could it be diverse? Absolutely. Now, how many of you work as part of a team? Right? You've got a team leader or that things like that. What I want you to think about on your buyer broker, and we're trying to get more information MLS to MLS on this. I want you to treat your buyer broker like you do your listing agreement. Your listing agreement is a team leader. You've got your team lead on there and maybe the lead listing agent because they're the ones on agency and communicating with the client. You need to do the same for a buyer broker. Whoever is going to be showing that property or showing property to that client, you should have the team lead as well as the buyer's agent on that agreement. And maybe you need more than one agent, depending on how your team is structured. So just some things to think about. Now let's pause there. How many of you like vacations? You go out of town, maybe you take a day off. Yeah, me too. You're going to need a buyer broker if your client shows up while you're gone for that agent who's covering for you. They've got to be on it. And so in those instances, you may want a specific buyer broker for the properties they showed. So you could use EXP single property buyer broker. You could use our other one, but have the dates very specific to include that agent. Does that make sense? I know it sounds like extra paperwork, but I'm really not wanting to get anybody fined, so I want to make sure everybody's okay to go there. Yeah.
Hey, Holly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had a question about the BBA. Who's going to police all this? Like you mentioned going into a builder. If your buyer goes into a builder and they have a buyer broker agreement with you, but they go to that builder without you and they sign the paperwork, who's going to really police that buyer's broker's agreement? And is the broker going to? It seems like it's going to be a lot of lawsuits from the agents to the buyers because they are not, you know, a buyer can go to a different agents or something like that, even though they have a buyer broker agreement with one agent, they might go to another agent, things like that. So I'm just wondering, seems like it's a lot of paperwork and going to be a lot of who's going to police all this.
Sure. So right now we understand that the enforcement arm of this new rule requiring the buyer broker is going to be the multiple listing service. And we've already heard some multiple listing services say that they're going to randomly contact agents for a copy of their buyer broker. Like, hey, you showed, Susie, you showed on Tuesday at 4 p.m., 789 Peach Street. Please forward your buyer broker to the, for the buyer you showed, kind of thing. And that's where we see kind of that self-policing. I also anticipate we're going to see state legislation. I know we've got somebody on here from Iowa. On July 1st, they have a new law that basically says they're required to have a buyer broker prior to showing. Washington State does, New Jersey does, Indiana does, Alabama will shortly. I know Arizona tried legislatively this last session, so I could see that happening. Just making sure that people get their own agent. We'll see if that happens in California. To your scenario of walking into a builder, I think it's going to depend. If they walk into a builder and that builder's not on the MLS, will we need a buyer broker? Maybe not. But if you're already out working with them, why wouldn't you have it to begin with, just to cover all your assets? And then finally, as far as buyers going from different agent to different agent, yeah, I think that's going to happen. I think the key in all of this is, what kind of trust have you earned with that person that they would not think of calling anybody else? We know people call other folks, but a lot of buyers are uneducated about how we work, what we get paid, how hard we work for that money, and then all of what it takes to actually run a business. And so I think that that opportunity for transparency, it reminds me of the short sale days, like 2007, 2008, and 9, where we sat at a kitchen table and had the full conversation about the phone calls that we made to the lender every day, starting at 5 a.m., and what the buyer or seller could expect. And people were willing to stick in a transaction with us. I think the longest one it took me to close was 18 months, and the buyer stuck around. So when you start to think of those things, I would just kind of internalize, this is a professionals market. Professionals say up front what you can expect from me and how I'm going to show up. And if a buyer moves on, have a day. Like, I've got other things to go do, in my opinion.
Holly, I
So
have a question.
let me answer this real fast and I'll be right there. So Monique just signed a client into new construction. Do I need a BBA? Probably not, as long as you've got that you're under contract and what that builder is paying you.
Okay,
go
Holly,
ahead.
sorry, this is Aida. Along the same lines, if I have a current listing right now, will I need to update it with the EXP listing, or do I just use an MOT?
You may absolutely use whatever form makes the most sense. We did do an amendment to the listing agreement. We did an EXP one. You're welcome to take a look at that, see if it fits for you. If your association updated, that's fine. The biggest key is we wanted to pull, decouple the commission and let sellers know they had a choice and then kind of set them for success in negotiating strategy. The second thing that we wanted to do is make sure that they knew about EXP exclusives and that we were advertising their listing on that. Because at the end of the day, guys, the more listings we have on EXP exclusives, that will allow us in our global listing platform to do some really cool things over the course of the next 9 months. And so making sure sellers are aware of it, that you all are aware of it. We're looking to play the long game here, but need your help. So I'll just share that.
Holly, can I kind of across with new construction as well? I think you said something very important. So if the new construction site is part of the MLS, they have to follow our rules, like you said. BB the buyer broker agreement. Because I mean, we do a lot of new construction in my area. We're constantly asking what is it that they're going to see change moving forward. But in my eyes, I mean, if I have a BBA or a contract, if my client stepped into that place, I mean, obviously I would do my best, and we're pretty good at presenting buyer broker agreements, presentations before, even taking anybody out. And it still happens, people are driving around and they walk into still happens even to the best of us, right? So wouldn't that contract be honored even if my client does not follow the new construction protocol, which is your agent needs to be there to sign you in? And now because I have this legal form, the buyer is now responsible for paying me, even if they won't use me in the new construction?
Well, so I think that's the thing. If you have an exclusive buyer broker and a buyer, and I've got an open house scenario here too, as well as new construction, you can pursue the buyer for compensation. What I would say is this: was there ever any estrangement? Was there any disassociation or disaffiliation? Did they feel abandoned? Because if any of those happened, it becomes really challenging to sue someone in court for that money and get it passed by a judge or even a jury. Because, I mean, look at the antitrust lawsuit. The jury was like, yeah, we totally agree, realtors colluded. You and I both all know we didn't collude. We just, followed rules that were given to us, and then we negotiated with our clients. So I would be mindful, but also have a lot of patience as far as how we explain things.
Yeah, because I'm running into now, because we've been doing the buyer broker agreement for a while now, since October of last year. And what I'm running into is the lack of information. And now even like other agents telling our clients that why they paying 2.5%, 3%, right? So
Yep.
Those are the issues that I'm running into. And then the question that asks, obviously we can take somebody from a non-exclusive, let's just say, again, this is my mind thinking. I know I'm in an open house. I can have somebody on a non-exclusive agreement to start, and I can switch them into an exclusive agreement once they see my work, they see my worth, they see what I'm doing. We can go from a non-exclusive to an exclusive right after that, right?
Absolutely. You can continue to stair step. I've seen some people take from the Zillow touring agreement all the way to an exclusive. So I think at the end of the day, who do you want to be in business with, and how do you want to work is the biggest thing I would say. Now, Claudia, I love that you're asking this question. Procuring cause has gone out the window. So if somebody walked into an open house without us, and that agent doing the open house wrote the offer and sold the property, we could potentially or if the buyer came back to us and said, I saw this open house, I totally want it, we could have a procuring cause issue. With regard to buyer agency, it's exactly what was just being described. Did we abandon the client? Were we not there for them? Did they try to call us before they were walking into the open house? All of these types of things. They walk in and they go, yep, this is it. And then they call you and said, we found the house, we need you to write the offer. You absolutely can do that. You won't give up your commission because they agreed to pay you. Procuring cause is gone. But the flip side, if they decide to write with the listing agent, but you have an exclusive agreement, they may owe you commission. So What I would say is this: if you and are having an open house post August 15th, and a buyer says, oh, I totally want to buy this house, before you enter into any kind of buyer broker agreement, if you decide to represent them, you need to determine, are they working exclusively with somebody else? Because if they are, hands off, don't do it. You're going to subject them to 2 commissions. That's the last thing you want to do.
I'm really glad that you brought, I mean, like it talked about this, because I have some buyers, and we can't be in the like when you're working with multiple buyers, it could be very difficult, and everyone wants to be helped on the weekend.
Sure.
And so it can be very difficult, but yeah, I think one of the major things is to treat, I think us as agents treating each other the way that we want to be treated really comes to mind, because I had my client told me that one person who was holding an open house said, hey, here, yeah, your agent isn't here and I do all the work, and now they're getting the commission. And we know that there's so much that goes into not just a person entering the house, but all the other representation that goes in with that, and everything that you did to even get them qualified to get into the house in the first place. So yeah, I think really remembering to treat people the way you want to be treated is so important.
You
as
say it so
Holly.
beautifully, Claudia. Thank you. I think the key is we got in kind of a rut as an industry where, the guy on the couch holding the open house wouldn't do anything until somebody said, wow, I really like this house. Then suddenly they're front and center and in your face. I think now we've eliminated that, and we were always more than door openers. And that opportunity to really flex on what you do and the skills you bring to negotiating and strategizing, not just the purchase process, but the offer process, and then offer to close. Like, in my mind, the more you can crystallize how you show up in those 3 phases, and it may be more depending on how you want to break it down, but showing up and how you do what you do at such a high level, and what people can expect, and the communication quality, that's going to be the game changer. So I'm excited for the professionals who are willing to seize this market. For those of you who are like, hi, this still feels like a lot, I know, and you're okay. You're in really great company. I want you to get that buyer broker, whichever one you want to start with. And I want you to lean into it. I want you to be able to explain it in your words, in your conversation, in a way that people go, oh my gosh, I totally trust Carlos. Natalie is amazing. Why wouldn't I hire Frank? Those are the
Bye.
Go ahead. So I think as we kind of conclude, I want to drop, here is the listing kit. I think I'm going to be able to do that here. Oh, perfect, Leo. There you go.
Yeah,
And
we're
so,
ready.
yeah, both of those are there for you. We're going to be updating the buyer toolkit here in this next week. We've got another buyer training, a buyer mastery training that I'm actually leading next Thursday. We'll have that as part of the toolkit. We'll have updated scripts and kind of best practices, but we want to continue to drive for you all as things continue to shift, the more we learn, to really take care of you at a super high level. And I would just invite you, if you have an idea, if you have a need, would you send me a message? Because we're taking what we're hearing from everybody who is working actively in the market, what your needs are, and we're trying to make sure that we're addressing it in such a way that it's scalable nationally, and giving you what you need. So truly, whatever we can do to be of service, we're here.
Thank you, Holly. You are amazing. So grateful to have you at the helm of everything. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for all the knowledge you dropped on all of us. Our community is extremely grateful. I already see the chat, blowing up in gratitude. Thank you so much. We'll definitely bring you back as a special guest. Maddie, I don't know if that was like you raised your hand for a last question.
Yes.
Really quick.
I'm so sorry. I'm about to post a listing on the market right now, and I think I might have heard that you said that in the private remarks we can mention that the seller is willing to entertain buyer brokers offers or compensation. I don't know
Please don't put that in the private remarks. What I would say, don't put anything like that in the private remarks. What I would say in the public remarks is seller is willing to consider all requests from buyer broker.
From buyer.
Okay, seller is
Or
willing to.
I actually request from all requests from buyer. Right?
Okay.
Quite frankly, they've always done, but some people are feeling a little extra warm and fuzzy if we do it that way. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
I have a quick question too, Leo, please.
Okay. Holly, do you have a minute?
I got you.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay.
Holly, the question, I'm so sorry. The question that I have is, so do we just use the EXP forms or do we use what our association for our state has as well all together?
Your choice. I wanted to make sure, and our team was so passionate about giving you choice. We knew that some of the association forms were not really clear. We knew that some of the association forms were hard to explain. And so we took that to heart and wrote the EXP forms as if we were sitting in front of a seller or a buyer and having to have a conversation. And so each paragraph acts as a prompt to have the conversation. And that was our goal. So if you love your state form from your association, please use it. Absolutely. The only form that we would request you not use is anything that says broker to broker compensation, because as a company, we do not want to share whatever compensation you've negotiated. We don't want you sharing that with the other brokerage, because that's what got us into trouble in the first place. And so go in, negotiate your fee, and then give the seller choice on what they'd like to do next.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. And Felice, will our forms hold in court? Yes. Leo Pareja and I have talked about this. Our legal counsel has helped us write them, and we will defend them. We've been very, very strategic and thoughtful about our forms.
You're the best, Holly. Appreciate you.
Leo, I want to thank you for this meeting and for the information. I'm still getting calls and texts from my previous brokerage, and nothing compares to what EXP is doing. EXP is on the forefront, the second front, and the third front, and I still get some texts on some training from a major brokerage, and they're not even covering the surface. We have taken all bases. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you for being part of our company. And thank you everyone else that tuned in today. The recording will be sent out. We'll attach the buyer and the seller kit as well. Holly, thank you so much once again, my friend. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you guys. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Have an amazing day, guys.